Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, welcome to the June Info Share for Care Coordinators. We're so excited to have you here when we know that you could be exploring Alaska's beautiful summers. And yes, even though it's rainy in Anchorage, I hear good things about other places. So I'm sure you'd like to be out there enjoying that. But I promise that we'll make it worth your time today because we have some awesome guest speakers. Kat, did you want to introduce our folks before I turn it over, just to let you guys know Cassandra's here, Anna with our Living Well grant is here too, and I think Damon's here as well, and Kat, of course. So between all of us, we'll be answering your questions in the background. As always, we try to read everything that we can, and if we can't read it out loud just because of timing or whatever, we always forward those questions on to the attendees. So Kat, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. And really quickly, Kara's on well-deserved leave, so she won't be here. But she's having a great time on the East Coast and doing a lot of fun things on that side. I'm sure she'll tell us about it next info share. And heads up, I know folks are having some internet issues. I know some of our staff are. So if we go off camera or something like that, that's probably because our connection is unstable. So don't mind us, but we're here. And also for you, if you get disconnected, just come back in. And we are recording this. This will be on our YouTube. And I think that kind of covers that. So we have Jenna from the IDD unit. And if you guys don't know Jenna, Jenna is a new supervisor. I was going to say assessor. Sorry, Jenna. Jenna is the supervisor with the IDD unit, and she works with the assessors that do the ICAP assessments. And then we have Nicholas from the assessment unit. And Nicholas is the unit manager, and he will talk to us about the CAT a little bit. So Jenna, if you want to get started, Jenna will talk briefly about the ICAP, and then you guys will have some time for questions for her. So Jenna, you could take it away if you're ready. And I know Jenna was having some sound issues, so if you're talking, Jenna, we can't hear you. No.
Thank you. It wouldn't let me unmute myself.
Okay, you got it. I was having that issue earlier today too, though. So, okay, take it away.
Thank you. Okay. So hi everybody. I just wanted to pop on here, just because we, with the ICAP assessors, have had to do, unfortunately, a lot of insufficient notices, courtesy notices, and I know we don't like doing them, and you guys don't like getting them, but it's mainly for the one reason about the respondents. And so I was hoping just to talk to you guys real quick, hopefully just some suggestions so that the respondents are more responsive to us. We've had a lot of issues with ICAP respondents not picking up when we're leaving messages and calling, not returning calls back, or when they do call us back or we get a hold of them, they haven't seen their recipient in a really long time, so they're not really appropriate respondents. Or what we've been getting a lot of too is them refusing to do the ICAP because they have no idea who we are, what it's about. They don't know why we're calling, and they're uncomfortable talking to the state of Alaska when they don't know why we're calling. So I was hoping that when you guys are with the family and the guardians and you're filling out the ICAP paperwork, that when the family's picking out their respondents, that you could ask them to reach out to them, whether they're grandparents, aunts, occupational therapists, teachers, whoever, and just let them know that the state will be calling and why we're calling. And just kind of a brief overview of the ICAP, just very brief, just that we'll be asking a bunch of questions about functional abilities, just that, so that when we do call and they get, a phone call from the state of Alaska, they're not on the defense immediately. And they know why we're calling. So hopefully that will help in decreasing the amount of courtesy notices that we're having to send out or phone calls to you guys about respondents. Also, if there's any chance that an alternate can be listed. Because then if we are having issues with the first three, you know, they don't want to talk to us or they're not picking up, then we can call that fourth person to hopefully avoid having to do a courtesy as well. And if you guys have any questions or issues, you can always email me or Joanna Croxton. She does all of our intakes. We'll happily help you guys if there's issues. But that's pretty much about it. Thank you guys.
And Jenna, maybe can you talk about more about the respondents and kind of what's an appropriate respondent? Do they have to know the person? Kind of how well they have to know the person? You know, could it be a grandparent that doesn't really see that person very much, or could it be a teacher from like 3 years ago? You know, maybe kind of talk about
Sure.
a couple of those things.
Yeah.
You know, can a care coordinator be a respondent? Can the person themselves?
Yeah, I can definitely elaborate on that. The person can be a respondent if they're their own guardian. The care coordinator can. Oftentimes, you guys normally aren't. But if it's somebody who doesn't have a lot of supports, maybe they don't have staff, you know, they're not in school, they're kind of on their own. Definitely, if you guys feel like you know them well enough, you guys can definitely be respondents. Oftentimes we see, for kids, it's easier because they have teachers. They have, most of the time they have occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. So anybody like that, because oftentimes they see them weekly, if not multiple times a week. So they do know the person pretty well. They do need to see them at least relatively frequently. Like we would prefer, you know, weekly, but that's obviously not an option for a lot of people, especially adults, but at least monthly that they see them. I know with COVID and everything like that, if it's over Zoom that they're seeing them, FaceTime, we count that too, because we know now that's a lot more frequent. But yeah, teachers often, you know, summertime, not ideal. Some teachers are okay giving out their personal number, personal email for us to contact them, but a lot of them aren't, and that's okay. But even like TAs, really anybody. I mean, we have neighbors that do it sometimes if they're really involved in the person's life. That's the only real requirement, is over 18, and that they see them on a regular basis and they know them. It can't be two people who live in the same household. So if mom and dad live in the same household, it can only be one of them. They can do the ICAP together, but they would only count as one respondent. If an older sibling or somebody lives in the house too, then they couldn't do it if the parent's going to do it too. I think that those are the most common people. We don't normally, while we do like PTs and things, we won't really, we don't really let you do it with physicians because they, unless it's a family friend. But normally if it's just like their neurologist that sees them every 3 months, every 6 months, they're not going to know the information that we ask on the ICAP. So we don't really prefer to do them with those people. Friends, when we'll do them with friends too, if or like roommates, if they're living on their own, we can do it with them. Like I said, really just anybody that knows them well and sees them relatively frequently. Staff members, like if they're in a group home, of course, or day have respite, any of those people, supported employment folks, they tend to be, you know, one of the best because they know them really well and they're actively working on the skills. So anything else?
There's actually a comment, kind of a question in the chat from one of the care coordinators saying that she's been hoping and trying to get group home staff to be respondents, but it's been difficult to get a call back. And so she's asking if the assessors have also found it to be difficult to connect with the group home staff. And like you said, providers are usually really good respondents for.
Yeah, I have heard that from the assessors that a lot of the, not a lot, but some of the group home people are just not getting back, or they have staff. Unfortunately, like, you can't force anybody to do the ICAP, even if they really would be kind of one of the best people to do it. So if you guys, like, if they're not getting back to you, or if, like, if, you know, you have a courtesy out because we're trying to get a hold of the main group home staff and they're just not being responsive, then we would just move on, hopefully to somebody else, either another staff in the home or somebody else that the parent or guardian thinks would work. Because yeah, we can't force them. And we don't want to wait too long for it, just because we don't want to be late and make the plan late and everything like that. So we would just move on to somebody else. But we do highly encourage the group home staff because they are very knowledgeable.
And there's feedback saying to speak to the manager of the home or the agency if you are having a hard time.
Some of the assessors have definitely called out to like the case manager, like if the case manager is also a respondent, they'll reach out to them and say, you know, this person in the home is not being responsive. And yeah, we have had good luck with that, but we oftentimes don't have like a supervisor's name or anybody to call, but when we do, we do.
And then there's some other questions and kind of comments about the assessor's numbers showing up as spam. So folks are not picking up sometimes because it shows up as spam when they're called. So I'm assuming assessors are leaving voicemail messages for folks, right? If they're
and I was really hoping that the spam issue was taken care of. I know about, I'm gonna guess about 6 months ago or so, it was really bad. Like, I don't know what happened with our phones, but all of a sudden everybody's phone was spam. And we did have a fix that we thought fixed it. And I haven't heard that being an issue anytime recently. So if it has in the past couple months, definitely let us know, and I'll try and figure it out with whatever assessor's phone number is still coming up that way.
And I'm just trying to look through the questions because we have a lot of kind of the same kinds of questions. Can respondents be texted instead of called?
Yes, as of maybe a year ago, that's kind of a new thing. Yes, so we do text, and definitely in the little, oh, I'm drawing a blank, but I think it's like the little comment section next to each respondent. You can put in there that they would prefer to be text, and we can definitely do that.
And this is for scheduling, not for the actual ICAP, right?
Oh, sorry, yeah, just for scheduling and like if, yeah, but not for the ICAP.
And then your number apparently, Jenna, came up as spam for somebody too, but I could email you details on that.
That I'll check that too. I don't know what happened there. Just everybody at the state, all the cell phones just became spam.
And can you maybe give an estimate of how, like the timeline between the time the application is submitted and marked as complete to the time the respondents are called? I'm assuming it kind of depends on the workload, right, and how busy the unit is.
It does very much depend. Right now, we're definitely within the timeline. We are on top of things. I would take a guess that it's about a week from when like it's marked as complete before it's taken by an assessor, and then it takes a couple days for them to prep the packet and then call people. I know we've had a record number of the Medicaid TEFRA applications come in, a request for them this past month, I believe. And so we're going to have a huge influx of ICAPs. So we might be going a little bit later coming to the summer, and summer's always busy with staff being out on vacations and whatnot. So definitely it's going to take a little bit longer than the next few months.
And there's also a couple of questions about file reviews. Do care coordinators know, or do they have a way of knowing that a case was selected for a file review? And is it assessors that do the file reviews?
It is. ICAP assessors do the file reviews, and there's really no way of knowing in advance. We look over all the documents. We look over like the past scores of the ICAP, any changes that have happened in the last, since the last ICAP. There's a lot of stuff that we look at to determine if it is going to be a file review. A lot of times they do end up being file reviews, but if they're, are big flags, like if there's been a lot of behaviors or medical issues, or if they've been really close to the ICAP cutoff, then we'll just go ahead and do an ICAP. But unfortunately, there's no way of knowing which way it's going to go for you guys until we look at it. There are observations that we do, so we still try and see the person, even if we don't do an ICAP, if it's just a file review. And those are mostly done every 3 years.
Okay, I think that covers all our questions. So, and if you guys have questions that kind of come up, you could always put them in the chat and we'll answer them later, or we'll follow up with the IDD unit and get back to you guys. But thank you, Jenna. If you want to stay for the rest of our info share, you can do that.
Sure, thank you.
And then Nicholas, if you want to take it away. And heads up, Nicholas's camera is not working, guys. So you're just hearing voices from beyond. Sorry about that. We'll send pictures later.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Great. Yeah, I really don't have too much information out there. I know that there's kind of been this this looming issue with our backlog on trying to catch up with a lot of the assessments. So I've been hearing a lot about that. I've gotten a lot of phone calls, emails associated with getting assessments done. We're kind of pulling out all the stops as we can. There were staff issues, but we're much more fully staffed now. It does take sometimes upwards of 6 to 12 months to train the assessors to adequately perform the consumer assessment tool. So it does take time to get people established, et cetera. We have some people doing more assessments, working more time, and we're really working really hard to try and get that backlog reduced. So at the same time, really it was a request and reaching out in terms of a favor. When I first reached out to Kat to see if I could join this, there was a week somewhere around May where we had scheduled, I want to say 77 assessments, and I want to say we had about 35 cancellations that week, which can really put a hindrance on that. So I was just really wanting to reach out and ask that cancellations really be reduced as much as possible. And if you can agree to an assessment time, if we can try and keep that time, it can really throw a wrench into our plans for the week. It takes a lot to get these assessments set up, the Zoom set up, the assessor has to review the medical documents prior, get prepared for the assessment, sometimes go through those medical documents with the supervisor. And then if it gets moved to a different week, sometimes we have to give it to a different assessor, and it just, all of that restarts again. So I wanted to remind people that in most cases, truly only the consumer needs to be in the assessment. I know sometimes the care coordinator is helping with Zoom, or a family member is helping with Zoom, or we need to get permission from a POA that happens to make health decisions and things like that. But I just really wanted to reach out to everybody, and if we can reduce cancellations as much as possible, that would be a humongous help to us. And hopefully we can reduce this backlog prior to going back face-to-face and in-person assessments coming up in November, which is going to be more mandatory, especially for initial assessments. So that's really all I wanted to reach out, and I wanted to thank everybody for the communication and reaching out to Kat or reaching out to myself. And I'm always happy to help. You know, jot down the spelling of my name right there. It's spelled correctly. You can always shoot me an email or give me a phone call. Kat can share with you my phone number. I'd be more than happy to help on individual cases.
We can add that to the agenda when we email folks out later too, just so that everybody has your contact, my contact.
Of course, that's great. But that's really all I had to add, unless there's a question that popped up in the chat.
So a couple of questions. There was a suggestion, and suggestions, I guess. Could the scheduler maybe put their number or a contact number in the Harmony note? So if somebody, if a care coordinator needs to reach out, they're able to call.
Absolutely. So I can actually make that. I can put it inside the snippet, and I can have. So we only had one SST, what we call our senior services technician. They'll do the scheduling, and we just got our second one started. So there's going to be more people scheduling. So the individual who schedules with your case, they absolutely can put their direct line in there, and you'll be able to contact them. Our favorites in terms of rescheduling, if it really is necessary, let's say a hospitalization, a real emergency, is in those particular situations. It's best to schedule the same week if possible. If it's just something small, hey, we're running late, we'd really prefer to schedule the same day. Maybe we can move it to a 3 p.m. time slot instead of the 11 a.m. time slot, which tends to be the most popular one. Might be a bit inconvenient, but if we can work on that sort of stuff, I think if we got the ball rolling on that more, we'd make a lot more progress in catching up on that backlog. But yeah, I can have the SSTs put the numbers inside in the Harmony note. That's a great idea.
And there's also another comment about the scheduling the meeting is done in Central Time and not in Alaska time. I don't know if you have any way of controlling the time zone and kind of how that information is sent out.
So when
And
we
this is the
send
first
out a
time hearing that too. So
yeah, that's my first time hearing that. Is whenever I send out, any of us send out an invite via Zoom, it'll say inside the body, it'll be in Alaska time. It'll be typed out. The body of the Outlook invite will say, for example, it's 9 a.m. on 6/15/2023. And so it should be listed inside there. If it is incorrect, you can always double check with the individual who sends you that invite. And, but we should only have the Alaska information inside there.
and
If
it's
someone wanted to
it's for the okay.
forward,
Thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to make
and then
sure.
it should be in the appointments tab in Harmony as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sure I'm covering all the questions. I don't know, Delight, if I missed anything, and Cassandra, help me out, guys.
I'm just trying to furiously type all these
I know you don't even
great
know
details.
what I'm trying to read.
Hey, it was
Can
just
you tell us, Nicholas, like an average, like what's the time frame for an assessment to be completed? Maybe from the start to when the level of care is issued. I guess it's all depending on the case and the assessment. I understand that. Just
Yeah, typically, and it's also kind of on the day of the week. So we do our assignments on Monday for typically that Monday of the week for the following week. So as long as the application kind of comes in the week prior, if you put an application on a Tuesday, it might sit until the following Monday to be actually assigned to anybody. So that's a little bit of advice there. And then if it's an initial, we have to get it done within 30 days. So that's a regulatory compliance issue. We have to have it done within 30 days from the time we get a complete application to whenever we have the write-ups completed and put in Harmony. And then we have 48 hours to send out the level of care notice to the consumer after that point. So those are the most strict guidelines right there. But typically we sit around an 18 to 22 day average for the initials, somewhere inside that range, really depending on how many we get and what time of the year it is. Right now we're getting a pretty big amount of initials, so it makes those renewals kind of harder to get to. But typically whenever it's a fault at SDSs, it's we tend to not harp anybody else because it's kind of on us to catch up on that sort of thing. But if there are significant changes or anything of that nature where somebody really needs an assessment, by all means, reach out to me or reach out to somebody else. But in my unit would be, the supervisors' names are David Chadwick and Elias Haran. If you recognize those names, those are the other two supervisors in the unit. You could reach out to them as well. And we could work something out.
Okay, I think that covers all of the questions. Again, if you guys come up with questions during the rest of our info share, feel free to put them in the chat. And Jenna, I don't know if she's still here because I'm not looking at that screen. Thank you, Nicholas, for your.
I did have one more thing.
Oh yeah.
Just real quick for the expedites, and we do get a good amount of expedites that come in. So the expedites, that's whenever we have 10 days to complete it. So if you submit an expedite, the thing I will remind people of, you have a lot of check boxes inside there. Let's say it might be something going on with APS, or it might be that they were just discharged yesterday, and all of those need to also include that they don't have any natural supports at home. And it might be that they have a loved one at home and they work, let's say 12 hours during the day and there's nobody there at home. Those details are really important, because if I look in the medical records and I see that there's somebody that they live with and there's somebody that is a natural support, it might look like they need help, or they don't need help because there's somebody there with them. But then if that person's gone all day and that leaves the individual at home, alone with nobody, with no actual natural supports during the day, then that's an issue. So if you can put that sort of stuff in the comments below, I tend to reach out to the care coordinators just to ask for clarification before I deny things like expedites and 365s, but it really helps to not have to do that if you could add a little bit more information about the lack of natural supports. And I think that's my last bit.
Thanks, Nicholas. And SDS is not doing level of care extensions anymore, correct? That's a question that kind of came up a few times as well.
Correct. I think those ended in somewhere 2021, somewhere around there.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So some question I see, do you want to ask that one about
Oh, go ahead.
care
I'm trying
facilities?
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
you
a
guys
good one.
can see it's a full screen of like comments and questions, and we're trying to go look through it and make sure we're not asking the same questions over and over. So go ahead, delete.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just trying to make sure we're coordinating. So when you're trying to set up an assessment and it's like for someone and the waiver is approved, they're in a long-term care facility, what discharge date do you suggest to put in? Because it will only accept numbers in that section. Can you, Nicholas, just walk us through what to do when you have a client that's in a long-term care facility and is trying to leave? Because there's a lot of dynamics to it about the discharge, and sometimes that number is a moving target because their care is they're not stable, they're stabilizing. What advice would you have for care coordinators trying to line that up?
As I don't know if I have any really good advice for that. I can say that if the assessment needs to be done in the facility because they're waiting for an assessment prior to doing the discharge, it's going to have to be done by the nursing unit, and Muliatanoa is your best contact in those cases. Otherwise, if there is a discharge and they're giving a discharge and they're saying this person is leaving, that's whenever the expedite would come to the assessment unit, in which case we tend to have a definitive date for a discharge in our units. The nursing unit tends to work with those ones that are kind of up in the air. So I'm not sure I'd be best equipped to answer that question.
Okay, Nicholas, I think on that question, she was trying to find out when she was talking about the date to put inside the discharge thing, do they put the assessment date or do they put a discharge date? The discharge date. Okay.
Thanks, Cassandra.
It needs to be within 7 days of discharge to qualify for an expedite.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. That was great. And sorry we didn't get to see you, but maybe next info share to pop in. I think that's that covers all the questions. What's on our agenda next, Delayed?
Important dates. Gosh, we've been hammering home this for quite a while. And so questions like, are these notes going to be shared? Yeah, we can send these out. We'll send them out with your CEH email. Kara usually sends those, but I'll take a crack at it this time. So I can attach the notes for it. So important dates. We've been really trying to hammer these home for quite a while. You've been getting tons of e-alerts on them since, gosh, February. Because we know that your planning team meetings need to happen way before the dates of implementation, right? So we're starting to close in on those timeframes when these dates, you're starting to turn in plans for these dates. So the first one, July 1st, short forms can be used for plans starting July 1st. As long as a full support plan has been turned in the past 2 years. When we say full support plan, we mean it was done in Harmony. It had planned services, it had the plan details form, and it had all of that stuff in it. So, and there's a couple of other conditions, such as like you can't use short form for acuity requests, can't use short form for SPDN, and there's one more, Kat, that I'm forgetting.
IAT?
Like IAT, thank you. So that's like the quick and dirty on short forms. You can learn more about short forms on YouTube if you have questions, or the e-alert that went through. But this is really a flexibility made permanent. The AppK is transitioning away the day before short forms implement. And so on June 30th is the last day you could file an AppK, and the Uni 03, so that's the paper amendment form, is also going to be retired, okay? So those are both going to be retired very soon in the next 30 days. But if you guys are getting pretty prepared for that, you're turning in those plans now. So, but if you ever have questions about either of those, we have lots of resources for you, the e-alerts, the YouTube channel, office hours, all of the, we're really wanting these initiatives to be a smooth transition for you. So let us help you with any barriers that would prevent it from being smooth for you, okay? So let us know. Speaking of YouTube channels, we've been posting a lot of things lately. So we have, remember we had a couple of workshops a few weeks ago on entering a full plan, entering an amended full plan, on the short form, on word merges, and these info shares as well. You can go onto our YouTube channel, and there is a sub channel on just Harmony training stuff, and those, it'll just queue up to just run. We know that these two trainings, entering the full plan and amending the full plan, those are recordings of a live session, so they're not as like polished as some of them. They're just off the cuff, just learning live. You'll see real quirky mistakes in Harmony that do happen, you know, so there's like break times in there. And really it's just intended for you to like, you can speed through them if you want to, and just keep working through it and use what's helpful for you. The Training Academy, we finally got that PCC training on variable certifications up. That's a CEH training. It's a 3-part video series. And so I'm hoping that you take it, get that CEH, and then if you like, tell me what you think about it. Have any of you taken this training? Let me know, because it was interesting to build, and I'm curious if you liked the format or not. There are a lot of other formats that we might be able to use, so it'll be interesting to see what your take is. So Kat, I see that there's a lot of questions so far, some of them on the short form. Do we want to go back and touch base on those?
Yeah, we can do that. There's some questions about can you use the short form if you're requesting DHAB over the regulatory limit? That's one of the questions. And I did respond saying I'm going to follow up with the review units to double check, because that probably was not in our e-alert. There was a lot of e-alerts, guys, so bear with us on that.
Well, you know, that's a great question. So thinking about the DHAB limit, remember that there are very specific parameters for going over the limit when you're making that request. Those regs are going into effect in November. As far as renewing at this time on the short forms, you know, it's pretty wise for these kind of cases that, I'm just going to be honest, you're going to have cases that are going to be working through these various AppK, like AppK guardians as legal representatives as paid providers. You're going to have like just varying elements of it that have an AppK flexibility on each one of your cases. Like you're going to have one on your caseload. Come to one of our office hours so that we can support you with it, because we really hesitate to give any like large directive that could be that, you know, we just don't have enough information to give you guidance one way or the other. That's a big reason why we have those office hours, because really each one of our cases are so specific. The regulations can be read so uniquely to that case. We would prefer you bring those to us. Other thoughts, Kat?
So you're correct. I think we tried to kind of cover some of the questions that we thought were going to come up when it comes to the short form, not just in the training, but in some of the communication. But we can't come up and cover all the scenarios. So if you have a specific case or something's going on or you have questions, just reach out to me or to training or to the unit, and we will get that question answered. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a little different starting up. It's not the same as it was with the AppK short form. This is a little different criteria and different process for it, but I think once we go through like a year cycle of it, I think it'll be a really good way of using a short form for everybody. So
yes, and I think a lot of the short form development was thinking about a world without flexibilities. So we didn't think about, how the day hub caps were kind of working now and when it's applied and when it's not. So there's a couple of pieces to it.
And just to clarify, you won't be able to use the UNIO 3, so the paper amendment, which was the transitional process in the last guide from December, I think, was it? So you won't be able to use the UNIO 3 paper amendment or the AppK form. So the AppK COVID-19 plan form starting July 1. You won't be able to use either one of those. So you'll have to do all of the plans and amendments in Harmony
now. And the good news is once you get a full amendment in and have all of that information in, it'll be possible to do a short form again. So that's a good thing.
And there's a question about Harmony timing out, and can something be done about that? And unfortunately, no. I want to say it's 20 minutes, but I think it times out after about 20 minutes, but it depends. I wouldn't trust that. I wouldn't even think it's that long, because mine, I would say, times out in less time than that for sure, and we have no way of controlling that. And our best kind of solution is save often. And if you want me to resend the Word version of the plan that you could kind of input and then easy copy and paste easily, I can do that. I don't know, Delight, if you have any more words of wisdom on that, but our best solution is save often. Don't think it's 20 minutes, because I'm hearing it's from personal experience.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
you nailed it. The only addition I would say is just be careful about how many Harmony windows you have open. If you have a lot of Harmony windows open, it's possible to think that you're working in an active area, and you're not. So I know I'm one of those people that has like 100 tabs open too, but you really do just have to be very careful about that.
and I did send an email about the NFLOC 04 and CFC 06 forms, which are the forms that are in Harmony that number of care coordinators were using and testing. And you could use those forms in Harmony. There's not really a testing phase anymore. And I did email out instructions. So if you didn't get them, or if you want me to send them again, you could email me or put the info in the chat, and I'll get back to you. But the NFLOC 04 application, the CFC 06, can be completed in Harmony and submitted that way, so you don't have to do the paper versions that are on our forms website.
So I just want to have like a regroup moment on all the dates because it's really confusing. The best advice I can give to you about, you know, when the AppK is like, how long is the AppK good for and when does the short form apply? It's based on the plan start date. So if you have a plan that starts on June 30th, that could be an AppK. If you have a plan that starts on July 1st, that would be your short form. So it's based on plan start date. Hopefully that helps. We understand it's really confusing and
It's a lot of dates. I have like a sticky with dates delight on my computer because I'm like, oh my God, what date is it again? There's been so many changes.
And there are a lot of things that, you know, like, is it the day that I turn it in versus the plan start date versus like the level of care date? I get it. So just like really cue into plan start date. That's what we're running off of because that's the least consistent factor that we can go off of. Okay, so I'm seeing some extra tips about saving. Make sure that you're saving your original window as well. So yes, so like thinking of our tabs and all the windows, they all pop up separately. You have to keep your primary web browser active. So that Windows management thought of like, you know, I have all these windows and I've been working on this one for a long time and I've been saving it. You actually have to make sure the primary web browser is active. And it's super sneaky. I've had this happen to me too. It'll start doing a countdown, and if you're not looking at it, you're looking at your other window, you'll be like actively working in this other window, but it's counting down that it's about to lock you out. Not great. We feel you on this and have made our feelings known.
And speaking of Harmony, use Chrome, right? Chrome, and I cannot emphasize enough, use Chrome. We have seen some really, really strange things happen in some areas of the plans when folks are using Edge or Internet Explorer, right? Is that? Remember the other old school browsers, guys? But
Internet Explorer.
Make sure you use Chrome. We have seen really strange error messages come up in like one place in Harmony. So it looks like it's working. You're putting your plan in, you're entering information, and you're doing all this work. And then it happens in goals. At least the one that happened to me was in goals. And then you won't be able to make any more changes. And even if you duplicate that plan with the error happens to be duplicating too, so you have to start from scratch. And we've only seen that happen when Edge is used and when the plan is entered in Edge. So make sure you use Chrome. I know it's not everybody's favorite browser. It's not something that everybody loves, but Harmony really is designed and tested and kind of functions best in Chrome. So you make sure to use Chrome when doing your work, because we've had a number of care coordinators come up with that error, and there's nothing right now that we can do to fix it, and there's nothing that WellSky can do to fix that. So all of that work is kind of lost. It's there hovering with this error, and we're not able to correct it.
And we like it gives us heartburn because we know how much time it takes for you. So we're like, please just use Chrome because it's awful to lose your work, and we know that it's not great. So we are trying to work with that and trying to support you as much as we can.
And it's a redundant question from me because you email me saying you can't do something, and my first question is always like, are you using Chrome? Are you doing this in Chrome that you're encountering this error? Because when I reach out to Harmony Help and let them know there's an issue, that is the first question they also ask me. So I don't want to have to get back to you guys and then get back to them and be in between.
So I'm starting to see some questions about like some of these topics that you guys have been asking about, and you just haven't seen a lot of formal advice come out, especially about the face-to-face requirements. We are preparing more robust materials about this, like a frequently asked question for all of the flexibilities that end November 11th. That's in the works, where we're going to really dig into the face-to-face requirements and have really clear language for you on it. But in general, like right now the regs are reading that, you know, face-to-face for care coordinator contacts in November is once every 6 months. That is true. That doesn't mean though that you like just can't, like you still have to do your 2 monthly contacts. So that's like a big, you know, like you still need to do those contacts, and one of them has to be with a video modality, like a face, like eyes on. So we're going to give you more information on that, because there's a lot of questions about, well, what modality can, like, I know modality is such a technical term, but like what's HIPAA okay? Like, can we use Google Chat to do a face video? Like, I don't know. We need to do a little bit more research for you. Okay. So just being clear, we're trying to look into some of those pieces of it because we want to give you the best information possible. So some folks are like, well, won't a phone call work? Remember, you have 2 contacts. One can be phone, email, and the other used to be like in person. And now we're allowing distance delivery. So we're looking at how that's going to work and give you more firm guidance on it. I know you're blowing Kat up with a lot of questions on it. She knows, and she's giving you the best off the cuff response that she has at this time. We promise that we're preparing more curriculum on that so that you can start preparing your practice, and we'll have it before November 11th.
And there's some great questions in the chat here, so keep asking them, because we'll be using them when we finalize the curriculum and the FAQs that may be coming especially about the contacts, and just, you could do your face-to-face visits now. There's no, you know, we're not saying you cannot do your visits. If you're comfortable, if your person is comfortable, if they have a guardian, if the guardian or parent, you know, legally responsible person is comfortable with doing face-to-face visits, you could do them. And you don't have to do when the new regs are in effect. You don't have to do it every 6 months. You could continue to do monthly visits, and all of your visits can be face-to-face if that's what you need, or if that's what the person needs, or if that's what you both prefer to do. That's totally fine. You don't have to do you know, the minimum regulatory requirement, because that's what the regs say. That's the minimum required contacts. And there's some good questions about, you know, can a phone work? Can Zoom work? So, you know, what kind of video software we could use? We'll have all of those answers for you guys soon. But there's some really good questions that I didn't even think about, the light in here. So
Yeah, please keep asking your questions. Yeah, we're just because we're not giving you a solid like answer on them, what we're really articulating to you right now is we are preparing a more formal training on it, as well as other concepts such as concepts that just haven't been implemented, like regulations that haven't been implemented, such as day-hab cap and supported employment. We're working on preparing you for the implementation of those regulations as well. So they're all in a work in progress. Okay, so that is happening. Let's see. Aside from the CAH, we just want to give you a heads up on other like in the works of, and I'm just going to add on here, flexibility is made permanent. And when we say HAB services, this is also where we have day HAB, supported employment. And has everybody been checking, like keeping track of the like changes happening, the things that are passing? Let me see, can anyone guess what, there's been a big new provider type that's been created. Anybody know?
and I'm gonna give it a minute for the chat to go, you know. for folks to.
Okay, I won't say. I just like if you were watching, you saw I started it. You got it like Price is Right or what is it? Wheel of Fortune. You got 2 letters.
Home care.
Yeah, Rebecca got it.
Good job. Mhm.
Adult home care. This is adult fam hab. It's new. So there's going to be a lot for all of us to learn on that one. So that's going to be interesting to explore with you. So that's kind of where we have some of these regulations that they started, they were developed before the pandemic and then implemented like as the pandemic was occurring, and then we were like, whoa, we have enough with the pandemic. So we're gonna have supportive training for you about that. And then what else do we have? Oh, future info share topics. The next one for provider info shares. You're welcome to join them, but know that the questions are from all providers and it's a chance for all providers to get the same information. So we're going to be covering care calendars. We've developed a formal care calendar and we would like to collaborate with all provider types to educate everyone on this new form and the instructions with that form. So that's slated for June 20th at this time. Everything seems to be lining up for that to happen. And then the next info share, Kat, you want to talk about Dakota for a second? You've been working with her.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys are aware that the Sullivan is closing and there's I don't even know how to call this. There's work done around the homeless population and kind of making sure that everyone is taken care of with a place to go. So Dakota Orm is with the oh my God, the Anchorage Homeless Coalition, right? That she's with.
Yeah, that's right.
And she was actually supposed to come today, but she is very sick, and we had a last minute cancellation. But she's gonna come next month and just give everyone a brief overview of kind of the work that's going into that, what's happening, some time frames maybe, and that maybe you'll be seeing or getting some calls from DDRCs and ADRCs about some folks who are looking for a care coordinator. Because there's a population of maybe potentially waiver or PCSCFC eligible folks that are homeless that are interested in the services. There's some case management involved right now. There's PCIs being done. So there's a lot of work done behind the scenes to kind of prepare for that. So Dakota's going to come and maybe talk, kind of talk about the work that they've done and all of the things that have gone into taking care of that population and all the work that's still yet to be done, and maybe getting you guys involved in some of it. So just a heads up about, you might be getting calls from whether it's guardians or potential recipients or case managers or whoever about this kind of population is looking for care coordinators. We don't have a number, how many, we don't have a time frame right now, but I know this is an active effort, and this is the work that's being done right now, and it's been in the works kind of for a little bit. So I don't know, Delight, if you wanted to add.
I would say I met with Dakota briefly, and the best thing that for you just to kind of think about for when you do get to meet her is she wanted to know how she could support care coordinators, like what would make a client more prepared for the application process. What are things that she could do to support the clients to have things kind of lined up so that you'd be able to take them onto your caseload, because she understands that the caseloads are high, but she wants to know how can she support someone through that process. So if you can think of give that some thought and think about that. And she's really interested in collaborating with you, and she's so nice. I'm working with Zach right now on curriculum for the ISW, talking about ISW and safeguard funding, and that's slated for August. So we're prepping content for you on that topic. So that is kind of where we're at with that. 5 minutes to go here, guys. You've been asking us tons of great questions throughout, but is there anything on
And
your
we
mind?
thought we were gonna have enough to talk about, Delight, and we were worried that our
We
agenda
thought we
is
would be
kinda
done
split
like
today.
20 minutes ago. We were like, we'll just leave early. It'll be great. Okay, some good comments coming in, like maybe get some info on DDRRs. Okay. Yeah, we
And
can
there's
send the
some comments
updated
about
info sheet.
ISW and the rate change and how the rate change affected the ISW cap. If you are seeing that, if you're renewing somebody with the same amount of units and no changes and you're over the ISW cap, you could reach out to the IDD unit or to me. We are kind of keeping track of those cases and we have a workaround to get that resolved. So reach out to me with the Harmony ID and or DSM me with some details and we will get that resolved, and we are actively working on a more permanent solution to that. So we know we are aware.
Cool. I'm seeing some great feedback for Dakota already, and we will have to this is like nerd talk here. We're gonna have to mine these questions because there's a lot of good information in here from you all. As always, you're a wealth of information.
And heads up, Dakota has already been working with me and Delight and kind of other folks. So and she's well informed. So I think a lot of these things she's already got covered, but more than happy to bring that back as feedback saying, hey, we kind of gave Kirkland just a sneak peek that you're coming. And they already have, questions, comments, and kind of things for you to know. So she's gonna appreciate that.
For those of you that participated in full lives can remember the repetition thing. And so the more we can kind of digest and talk about these topics, I know sometimes it gets repetitive, like how many times have we talked about the short form? How many times have you said you're going to be the CEH? We do say these things over and over again on purpose because there's always one person that didn't get it because they're answering phones, they're helping clients in crisis, they're doing all the work. So we just want to keep you well informed. But okay, you can go ahead and keep putting your questions in. We'll just keep collecting them until the 3 o'clock time. But if you're done, you can leave whenever you like. I'll be emailing you these updated notes and your CEH email with this, okay? So thanks for attending.
Thank you, guys.
As always, we appreciate everything that you do. So any way we can support you, we know it's helping Alaska. So thank you.
This is Cassandra. I just want to make sure if you did the full lives renewal, hopefully you received your certificate. If you haven't, please let us know.
Thanks, Cassandra. Aw, we appreciate you guys too. Bye.